And there we are. We're live. Look at that, eh? Look at that. So,
hey, Paul, how you going, buddy?
I'm fine. And how are you? Whereabouts are you in the world at the moment? Let me guess.
Yes.
Let me guess. You're in Australia.
You'd be wrong.
Okay. Second guess. You'd be in Wisconsin.
It's a pretty good go at it because of the colours.
Yeah.
The accent's not real good unless I say "yeah," you're right, and
Yeah,
I'll come by you. Then you'd be right. But no, not Wisconsin. You want to have a number 3?
Dracula country.
Hey, you got it. I'm in Eastern Europe, in Romania.
Yes.
In Bucharest, to be precise.
Excellent.
So, and obviously, I spent a few days in London before I got here last night, and it was very pleasant. And I was almost going to sneak up and get in one of your videos, but I figured that's been done before. That's old hat, right? So no one would believe it either, right? So, so
one of our listeners, Ethan, Don Ethan. And Don, he really liked that bit. The look on Stacey's face when we did that, he thought that was brilliant. Which it was. I must admit, it was really funny. It was really funny. And yes, as you've quite rightly pointed out, isn't it amazing that we've managed to start on time?
I know it's a characteristic of a good broadcaster to be on time.
Is it just something that they find difficult to do in certain parts of Crunch Island?
They must. I mean, doesn't it annoy you? You know, these semi-professionals who only pretend that they put time up there. It's sort of time. Well, time if you happen to care.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But so I think Crunch Island has its own time zone. Right, it's always going to be 1 hour later than it should be. That's the time zone, right? So,
Sorry, I got the name Don Ethan. Sorry, Don. I knew there was an Ethan in there. I knew there was a Don. Don Ethan. He really liked the sketch that we played on. Well, everybody, but particularly Stacey, of course.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. But anyway, enough of the chit chat. We're here to talk serious stuff, and we've got to talk about the big event that's coming up. What do you think of the return of Smith and Warner?
The thing I like most about their return is that they actually apologized for their mistakes, paid the penalty, and swallowed some pride.
Yep.
And they've been forgiven. That's a good lesson for perhaps some law enforcement officers in the Midwest of US could take up a lesson from Smith and Warner.
Yep.
Admit when you've done wrong.
Yes.
Take the punishment, and all will be forgiven.
I mean, the Americans are wondering, Smith and Warner, what's that? Some make a firearm?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Sounds a bit like it, doesn't it? So. Yes, well, 2 leading players in the Australian cricket team, which I'm sure will excite all our American viewers tonight, or today, their time. And sorry, what is the big event that's coming up in the cricketing world? Well, it's the World Cup.
World Cup. You mean like just one team plays in it?
Yes. Well,
one country takes part.
Yeah, well, it would be if it was the America's cricket team, right? There'd be just one. There'd be all US teams playing each other, right? Yeah. And they'd call it the World Cup or the World Series or
World Series,
whatever,
Yeah.
But this is a genuine World Cup where many nations seek to qualify, and the top 10 get to play in the.
You've done your homework. You've done your homework. Let's go have a go at naming all the countries that take part, and let's see if the dude has A, heard of any of them, and B, knows where they actually are. Oh, here comes trouble.
Hey, mate.
Hey, hello, Eunice. How are you, my dear?
Hi. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. You're looking as good as always. I'm looking forward to seeing you over in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's not long now.
Yeah, no. By the way, have you got your what do you call it? Your ESTA, your travel visa. It's
Not
electronic.
We're going to get that.
Yeah,
Yeah, just do it online. So
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to pay to get into the bloody
I
place.
know.
So imagine having to pay to get into America.
well, yeah, but it'll be great to have you over there, and just be careful with Paul driving on the other side of the road.
I know. Actually, that's something I don't know what the situation is with the driving license. You just take your own one.
Yep.
Yeah, just take your own one, present it at the rental car company, and they'll say a prayer and wish you on your way. So
yeah. Well, I'm hoping that they according to my literature, it's going to be a Toyota RAV4 or something similar. Have you ever heard of these Toyota RAV4s? Are they popular in America?
Apparently so. No problem finding key for them. I can assure you of that.
Yeah.
In case you lose it, right?
Well, if anybody's Benjamin, you'll find one.
Yeah, I was going to say if we do, we can always get the evidence technicians, the crackerjack detectives from Manitowoc Sheriff's Department to come and have a look for us.
Yeah,
they would find them next to no time.
Yeah. I mean, that'll be kind of fun if you turned up in a '99 Toyota San William Henry 582, right?
That would be really funny, wouldn't
it? Yeah, no, it should be wonderful, and I'm really looking forward to catching up with you there, Eunice. And
it'll be good. It'll be really good.
Will this, Mark? Will this be your second rally or third?
Yes, second.
Second.
Yeah, the first one was last year.
And the dude's second rally as well.
Yeah, the dude's second rally. Hopefully, he doesn't have any plane problems.
I hope he does.
That's cruel, Paul.
He could make a few videos out of it, right? Probably stretch it out for 2 or 3 videos.
Yeah.
So. Anyway, I'm going to head away. I've got some work to do, so I'm going to head up the stairs. We'll see you. If we don't see you before, we'll see you in America.
You will. Yep. You take care.
Yeah, you too.
All the best.
Yeah. See you later.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Yes, the big problem the dude has, of course, is that over certain parts of America, when he's about to fly, they have weather.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Don't you love that? Oh, God, that drives me insane, that thing.
Yeah.
The pilot comes...
Okay, so just imagine the dude is here, right? And you've got to explain to him the 10 countries that are taking part. England, right, dude, that's part of the UK, okay? Now, in actual fact, when we say England, it's actually the England and Wales Cricket Board, and this will really confuse him because Scottish players can play for England, and so can Ireland. They can qualify for playing for England. So, we've had it within the England team. We've had some very famous Welsh players, Irish players. Well, the current captain is Owen Morgan. He sounds Welsh. He's actually Irish, and he's the England captain.
Yeah.
So this whole UK, Great Britain stuff, that's going to really confuse him, So then the second favourites, of course, are India.
Yes.
And you've been to India?
I've been to Nepal. I haven't been to India. So
right.
It's close.
Yeah. And then we've got Pakistan and Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And although there's there was a war in Afghanistan, a lot of people actually don't know where Afghanistan is. It is right next to Pakistan, and Pakistan is above India, and Afghanistan, of course, is more or less just below Russia, isn't it?
Yep. That's right.
Okay, and then we've got Bangladesh.
Yep.
Which is off to the right of India, if I remember rightly.
Yep. Correct.
Yep. And then we've got a place called Australia.
We should cover the other country in that region, Sri Lanka.
Yes. Sorry, that's correct, because that is the island just south of
the old Ceylon.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Capital of Colombo.
Yep.
As in lieutenant.
Yep.
Then we've got New Zealand.
Yeah. Australia, New Zealand. Yep.
Yep. We've got South Africa.
Yep.
And finally, we've got the West Indies.
Yeah, which is close to America.
Yes.
So they'll probably claim them if they win, right? So
yeah. And of all the cricketers you've ever seen, not counting Australians, who would you say was the best cricketer that you ever saw? Not counting Australia, because
that's a great question. Because I'm not exactly a young guy,
yeah.
I've seen many cricketers over probably 50 years, so some of the best cricketers that I've ever seen were from the West Indies.
Yeah.
In fact, in the 60s and 70s, like Sobers and Wes Hall and those guys, Viv Richards and so on.
That was the one. That was the one I was going to say. Viv Richards. For me, he was not only the best player by this team, but the coolest dude. I mean, look, the dude is a cold ass honky, right? Yeah. But Sir Viv Richards, because he was made a Sir, wasn't he?
He was, yes.
Sir IVA Richards. Honestly, if you ever get the chance to, just find some YouTube footage of Sir Viv Richards in his prime.
Yeah, and they played for the love of the game in those days. They barely got paid a penny to play. So,
and if you remember as well, that was in the days Sir Viv Richards never ever wore a helmet.
Yeah, no. Well, helmets hardly existed until I think the late 70s when Tony Gregg came out in that moon helmet.
Yeah.
In the Australia versus the rest of the world competition, where he was the captain of the rest of the world, and he had something akin to a bike helmet on.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So anyway.
So, well, it's a true World Cup. We have actual other countries other than just one playing.
Yes.
So, so I know that will be a bit unfamiliar to our friends across the pond there, but but maybe one day they'll invite some other countries to come and play with them.
This is cool. This is cool. This is dude baiting. Okay, so we better move on to because we're here obviously to discuss other things other than the Cricket World Cup. But we've covered the most important one. Okay, so the second thing is, what do you think about this guiltathon thing?
Oh, really?
Well, I've actually had some devastating news.
Really?
Yes.
Well, you look a bit guilty. Why is that?
I had a message earlier today from Falcon to say, dude, it was just a joke. I thought you would get it. And I didn't. I didn't get it. I thought it was a serious event. I thought they were actually going to get, a few of these people together to discuss their side of it, which I don't mind. I actually said to Falcon that it would be good to hear from some of these guilters, because you can imagine that in the future, some of the things that guilters come out with will be the things that the state will sort of be looking to add to their narrative to try and explain what happened. Because I mean, even guilters, they don't accept, all the what the state said happened, what Ken Kratz claims happened. That was a figment of his imagination. As Jerry Butin once pointed out, his press conference would have been one of the greatest closing arguments in a case ever, if any of it was actually corroborated, but none of it ever was.
It's interesting about the guilters, because I, like us all, I respect people who have alternate views, but they need to be based on some rational or reasonable argument. That it doesn't have to be perfect argument, but it should be reasonable. And I've often, in a polite and courteous way, challenged some of those on the other side, so to speak, to put forward what their arguments are. And the typical response is they don't respond. Or they'll trot out something that we already know that was just part of the fabrication of evidence. I haven't yet been convinced in any meaningful way of any evidence from the guilters' side that is compelling, none whatsoever. And which doesn't surprise me, but I'd still be open to hear it if it existed. So, but I haven't seen it. Now, I've just as a quick aside, I've just finished reading Sean Atwood's book.
Oh, right, yes.
Now I've read Jerry Buting's book. I've read John Farrak's book, and I've read Sean Atwood's book. And when I started reading it, I thought, I wonder if I've really left this a bit late, and I've already read a lot of this stuff in the other two books, but I hadn't really. Sean took a really interesting slant on how he put his book together.
Yep.
It's well written. It follows the case and the trial transcripts a fair bit. Exactly. And I've really, to be honest, I've got about 20 pages to go. The plane landed. That's why I've still got those 20 pages to go. But I've really, really enjoyed it. And there's much in his book that really continues to give me no reason to doubt what I've always thought was the case, and that is there's no evidence whatsoever about Stephen or Brendan's guilt. Well, Brendan's is just ridiculous, and Stephen's is without substantive evidence. In fact, there's more evidence to show that it wasn't him than it was him. So. Yeah. But anyway, interesting book. I would thoroughly recommend reading the three of them. They're like a trilogy without intending to be.
Yep.
So
absolutely, and of course, Eric Jose is in.
Yes, he gets a mention.
Yeah. Well, he actually provides an article or something, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. A copy of something from somewhere. Yeah. I forget where, but yeah, he certainly gets a good mention in there by Sean.
Yeah.
And yeah. It's fascinating reading, and you can read stuff and know whether you're getting a whole lot of bunkum or not. This is genuine, just reporting facts as they've unfolded. And I'd thoroughly recommend, if you haven't already read Sean's book. I forget the sequence in which they all came out. Paul, whose book came first? I think John Farrak's the last one.
Yes, I mean, of the ones I've got Michael Griesbach's. Now, his actually came out before Making a Murderer came out.
Oh, really?
Because his is something like 2013. So what happened was, not long after watching Making a Murderer the first time, my daughter produced that book for me. But of course, she hadn't read it, and she didn't realise that well, as I've said many a time, the first 2/3 of that is excellent, but the last third is just a complete nonsense.
Yeah.
But then obviously, yes, I've got Sean Atwood's book. One of my pupils has got it away at the moment reading it. So that one came out first. He was the first off the mark. It was interesting that Michael Caccini that Tracy Strunzi interviewed. I don't know where his fits in the time frame, and I don't know where Chad Keller's book fits in that time frame. I suspect Chad's was pretty close, sort of second to Sean.
Okay.
Yeah, and I know that Sean and Chad are good mates as well.
Yeah,
I know they excuse the pun, chat away together quite a bit. So yes, and then obviously Jerry Buting's book, and then John Farrak's.
Yeah, they're all great reads. And in no way are they repetitious. I can assure anyone of that.
No, so. I mean, in the last part of the Innocent Killer, he does present one or two snippets from people who are truthers, who are suspicious of what happened. So even before Making a Murderer came out,
yep.
Clearly there were people who were suspicious. I had the pleasure of chatting with Rubber Ducky twice last week, and of course she was somebody who followed the case right from the word go, and also during Mammothon, some real lucky whatsit got to chat with Carla Chase, because she actually came on.
Oh, right. I didn't see that.
No, I never saw that either. I think she's dodging us.
She might have had a disguise on.
Yeah, wait till I get to Manitowoc.
Yeah.
Gotta have words with her.
Yeah. So anyway, my final word on that is that all those books are worth a read, at least the three I mentioned anyway. So
definitely.
So the guiltathon was a hoax.
Yes.
And you fell for it. That's basically the message here, right? So
Yes, Muggins here fell for it. So yes, everybody have a good laugh. Have a good laugh at Paul for falling for it.
As I said, at least you admitted your fault, owned up to it, and we love you now, right?
So anyway, moving on then to what on earth is keeping Angela Sutkovich?
Well, it's not intellectual rigor, that's for sure.
No.
So seriously, I mean, I'm going to bore people because they would have heard me say this before, is that the whole appeal process, which includes post-conviction review, is designed for a court examination of newly discovered evidence.
Yeah.
That's the process that it's designed for. And it's not for a judge, short of someone making a frivolous claim of newly discovered evidence that, for example, they've worked out that aliens found the key.
Yes.
Short of that, it's the judge's role to allow that newly discovered evidence to be reviewed in a post-conviction hearing. Mm-hmm. So this whole process of delaying or pushing back against and creating this stupidity that we're witnessing is not only ridiculous, it also, emphasizes the if you like, the guilt or the concern about the behavior of, law enforcement and others. And thirdly is in total disrespect to the system of justice, which provides for the very hearing to be conducted. Now, the hearing itself is a court process, which obviously would involve the calling of witnesses under oath and so on. And then the judge can make a ruling as to whether they think that evidence is sufficiently meritorious to justify a new trial or whatever other ruling the judge may care to make. It's not for the judge to be, if you like, to be prejudging the matters by pushing back on them.
Yeah. And
you can only assume that the delays, because most of this evidence has been out there for a long time. Yes, there's been some supplementary things, including the issues with the bones and so on. But most of the evidence has been in the hands of the courts for a long time, and they're aware of it. So there's no reason for there to be a delay other than a reason of trying to cover their backsides and come up with some excuse, one would think. It's just disgraceful. It's just disrespectful to the system and disrespectful to the people of Wisconsin who deserve their justice system to work.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I was saying, that episode 10 of Series 10, I don't know if you've seen that one, of episode 10 of Series 10 of Making a Murderer.
Series 2, you mean?
Sorry, yes, episode 10 of Series 2. Have you ever seen that one?
I have seen that quite a few times. There's a really interesting guy in the end, about 15 minutes and 23.2 seconds from the end. Just somewhere around about that time.
Yeah.
There's a few words to say.
And and in it, it's Kathleen Zellner is saying that it's not a judge's job to go toe to toe with her forensic evidence, experts, and yet that's exactly what she did, what she's trying to do. She's just trying to ignore all this stuff that her experts have come up with. It's just ridiculous.
It just makes it look so. It's embarrassing that she should take on that toe-to-toe approach by being judged before it's been examined, right? It's just it goes to the question of her independence and integrity and her competency, probably more than anything, that she should take that approach. A competent, independent judge should say, okay, this evidence has got weight, it's constructed properly, it's supported by experts in the field from all over the world, it is deserving of a hearing, right? That's the process.
Exactly.
And she's just a patsy for this process of pushback, right? And I feel saddened about it. I'm not the one in jail, but I feel saddened about it. The people of Wisconsin have to put up with this type of judicial game that goes on by people who they entrust to, and vote for that matter, and trust to do the right thing. So,
yeah, I mean, do you think that maybe the powers that be in Wisconsin are now basically running around like headless chickens, wondering how the hell do we extricate ourselves from this mess?
Well, perhaps that's true. I'm sure it is, but the only way you extricate yourself from it is to actually let it unfold as it will. The truth is that there are people in high places who have done the wrong thing, and there are people in lower responsible places who have done the wrong thing. The only way this wound gets sorted is to allow it to go through the proper process. Just perpetuating it makes it even worse. And funnily enough, if you think about it, just with the benefit of hindsight, if they'd granted Kathleen her hearing back, when did she first submit that motion? Back, it's going on 2 years, isn't it? I think it's getting up to it. A lot, even though Kathleen always says that they keep looking for evidence no matter what. A lot of the really damning evidence, if the scientific evidence wasn't bad enough, the damning evidence of, the discovery of the CD in Tom Fastbender's personal possession and the mischievous activities regarding the bones and the handing back of the bones and so on. A lot of that may not have even been brought forward in the first place. Had they not kept pushing back, because that's discovered after the first submission. Mind you, as I said, Kathleen Zellner is a bulldog when it comes to this stuff, so I'm sure that information would have come forward at some point.
Yeah, I mean, yes, as you say, the whole idea of having this evidentiary hearing that apparently Tom Fallon was happy to go along with.
Yes.
You can't help thinking, well, he would have known perfectly well that there were bones that were handed back. So what kind of dance was he leading Kathleen Zellner in saying, oh, yes, we'll discuss letting you have the pelvic bone to test?
Yes.
Knowing full well that all the other bones, I think most of the bones from the other piles that were deemed non-human as well as possible human have all been handed back.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, that the answer of which will be fascinating. I mean, you would at one level think, oh, maybe he didn't realize the bones had been handed back. But then when you get into it, it's clear that he knows that the bones had been handed back. So he must have been just simply playing games with her. Hoping that she'd never get a day in court. I mean, it's never sat comfortably with me, and I still haven't had it explained to me why it is the case. Maybe the lawyers out there can offer an explanation. Why is it that the state gets to selectively decide which evidence is available for testing by the defence? Why is it their discretion as to what evidence to hand over? Now, I totally get that evidence should be handed over with due care or supervision or whatever the methodology is, so it doesn't get damaged, destroyed, or manipulated. But other than that, why is it that the state gets to decide whether we're not going to give you the broken blinker assembly, or the car's not going to be made available to you, or we're not going to give you this or that? I mean, the very fact that they choose to be selective about what they will hand over is indictable in terms of guilt, I would have thought. It says, because if Stephen and Brendan are so guilty, if Stephen and Brendan are so guilty, the handing over that evidence shouldn't matter a penny to their case, because he's guilty, right?
Yep, absolutely, and it would just confirm it further.
Correct. So that must be the system, because otherwise people would be screaming and jumping up and down, and other people can tell us why that is. I think at first, did they not offer to give Kathleen? I think it was 7 or 8 items, wasn't it? Yes.
And that was because the reason for those straight away was because they were the ones that were easiest to get. They were the ones that were close to hand, that they could get hold of straight away. And I think it's a case of Kathleen Zellner would need to go to court in front of a judge to actually say, now we need the court to force the state to get that evidence that they're hanging on to, that is probably in storage somewhere.
Seriously, sure it is. It would be in storage somewhere, but the blinker light assembly, really, that's going to be so hard to get.
Yeah.
I think the reason they gave the things they did give because they were biologically based, or should have been at least. Yeah. As we know, the bullet wasn't, but and there was already a court order given by Judge Willis at the end of the trial in 2007, when Jerry Buting and Dean Strang asked for the right to have that tested in the future, and I think they realised they weren't allowed to refuse. But on the non-biological evidence, such as the car, although there is some biological evidence physically on that. They just think, oh, we're not going to give you that. Really, where's the justice in that? Where is the justice for whatever side your view is about guilt or innocency? Where is the justice to this system? And the continuous open wound on this matter isn't helping anyone, right? And as I say, if Stephen and Brendan are so guilty, give Kathleen Zellner the chance to prove them right.
Yeah.
He is guilty, right? Because she's happy to do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, that evidence is going to come out at some point. Either going to hand it over voluntarily, or they will get a court order on it eventually. So
yes, yeah. As you say, it's if they really wanted to try and help Kathleen Zellner, and she said that if, as you've privately pointed out, if he's guilty, she is going to do their job for them. Hand them over the evidence. She'll do the job for them. End of story. We'll all go away and we'll all say, "Oh, we were very sorry. Sorry, Manitowoc Sheriff's Department for ever doubting you. Sorry, Jim Link. Sorry, Andy Colburn. We apologise. Cheerio." And this is 3.5 years down the line, and we haven't gone anywhere. We're still here,
and we're not going away.
No. Well, sorry. Can I just before we carry on, just a quick roll call, because I was told that I'm not looking at my live chat. So
I can't see it, by the way.
So I'm going to say hi to all these people for tuning in. To Fen, Charlie Kane, Pom Pom, basically a lawyer. We know who basically a lawyer is. That's Tracy.
Yeah.
Catnit, Joy Queller, Martha Dickinson. Hi to all of you. Let's see, who else have we got here? We've got Sharon, Sunshine Scotland, but she'd got a migraine. So sorry to hear about that. I don't know if that was you or me caused that.
That's when you start talking about cricket. That's what happens.
Yeah, exactly. Linda K. Brie.
Yeah.
Ziggy, Ben, Linda, Romad Mitch, 89 TACP. Who else have we got here? Ziggy, Fen, Ziggy, Jala. I get a mention. You get a mention.
Hello, everyone. Hello.
Yeah, hello. Ricky Weir. Ricky Weir. Who else have we got? Ali's here.
Hey, Ali.
Ali. Hi, Ali.
Robert Herman, is he on the line?
I think he is, yeah. He's normally kicking around somewhere. Yeah. Linda, Pom Pom, Ben. On a sec. On a sec. You see, I have learned since Mamathon how to actually get it so that I've got the I've got my Hangouts on one tab, and I've got the other tab where I can actually keep a track of the live chat. Now we've got Peaches Anna, formerly Rhonda South. So hi, Peaches Anna, Charlotte. Jane Witham. Now, I'm sure that's the lady on the other side of the continent of Australia near Perth.
Right. Yes.
Is that right?
Maybe. I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, I think so, because it's because she's just put nice shirt Mark.
Thank you.
Yep. So say good day, because it's 4:30 in the morning.
Right. Yeah, right. Hey, by the way, just
Yeah.
while you're mentioning all those people, and you mentioned that Tracy is there. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Tracy, I can't see if you're writing anything. Maybe you could, over the next 5 or 10 minutes, write a little 1 or 2 sentence explanation as to why the state has discretion in handing over evidence, just to, even if it's only to help me, because I don't understand why it's not all available. So maybe you could give us a quick explanation to that in writing, and Paul could read it out. So,
certainly Tracy was here at sort of way up the top of the chat. So yes, if she was able to do that, that would be brilliant. So honestly, I'm actually gonna. This is the first time I've ever done this on my own channel. I'm actually going to say something.
all right. Are you going to type to yourself, you mean?
Yes.
All right.
There we go. Short and sweet. Hi, everyone.
Great show. He probably said, I love that Capaldi guy.
He's someone else. He is some piece of work, that guy.
That's true.
Now, also, I've got a list of things I've been making a note of. Can you remember way back when a certain gentleman dressed up in a red kilt?
Oh yeah.
And asked everybody to start doing
videos.
And what are we finding? More and more people are doing video channels. Linda has recently started her own video channel, so I would advise everybody to get on and check out her channel, and obviously subscribe. And
yep,
mine grew considerably yesterday. I think I added nearly another 20 to mine.
Oh, really? What did you do?
Well, I put a message out asking people to subscribe. And,
yeah, that's right.
And there was quite a few people that sort of retweeted it and did an extra went an extra bit and said a bit more about it. And so yeah, I mean, look, if I don't get to 1,000 subscribers, life still goes on. I can still record a video, like a short video, and post it exactly. An hour later, but it would be really good, because by doing it this way, you're getting it out there live, and then I don't have to wait ages for the video to upload.
Oh yes, that's right. Yeah,
that's what Pom Pom says. Say hello to the Hod for us. So,
thank you, Pom Pom.
Hi there. It also responds to shark bait and shark snack.
Yep, any of those would be fine.
Yep. And I tell you what, I am enjoying all the Carl Barron stuff. I've been finding more and more stuff by him.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
So next on my list is a new trial.
Yes.
Are they going to have any stomach for a new trial? Because basically what Stacey pointed out Stacey Seabrook was, look, they would set a precedent if they didn't have a trial, then and just sort of give up. But what are they going to go on to trial with? What can they do? As I say, they must be running around like headless chickens at the moment.
Yes, it's an interesting point, because you'd have to wonder whether or not there are many things that can go wrong in a new trial, both for the prosecution and the defence. Mm-hmm. I think for the defence, he could be found guilty again, although that to me seems highly unlikely because of the weight of evidence that's effectively been a defence case by Kathleen Zellner already mounted in the evidence she's put forward in her post-conviction petition. Mm-hmm. And so, but Stephen could face, committal again. But that being the case, it's no worse than his current sentence, which is life without parole. So for the state, it could just cause the pain to be even more painful, even if they want to go through a trial for the sake of letting the process prove them unsuccessful rather than them giving up. There's going to be such a public exposure to the matter that in the interest of, healing the wound, it may well be best for the state to swallow their pride and go, well, we're better off just letting this matter go. So, but, it remains to be seen. That's a step down the road just yet. The main thing is to get this post-conviction hearing.
I mean, the thing is that what happened in the 85 case was the evidence came back to prove that it wasn't Steve. They've already got the evidence to prove that stuff has been planted against him. They should just do as basically Griesbach and Rohrer did back in 2003. They should just get together and say, look, Judge, you need to overturn this decision and just let him out. And then we'll have those iconic scenes where certainly in 2003, you see him, Steve, that is, walking out with Barb and is it Jenny?
Jenny, his daughter, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just wondering, what scene are we going to look forward to? Is it going to be, at the end of a court trial where, the foreman of the jury says not guilty and he just gets to walk out of court there and then?
Yep.
Or will it be a case of, there'll be some sort of like a hearing in front of a panel of judges and they just say, right, just let him go.
Yeah.
And the state say, we're not going to take him to court over this.
If that's the case, then he'll be released from, one would think, Warpon,
right,
where he presently is. So yeah. But as much as we want Stephen and Brendan to be free because they deserve to be free, I don't get any comfort out of seeing this process being so painful for the state of Wisconsin, and so the sooner they admit by default or by admission what's gone on and get this matter over, the sooner the healing starts. And there also needs to be considerable independent re-examination of what brought this matter to the state that it's in today, because but for the grace of God, and I'm sure it is the case, there are many other people who've suffered at the hands of a less than independent and professional law enforcement process. I'm always been one who's had the highest of regards for judges. But seriously, as much as I want to, I can't look at Judge Sukovich and Judge Fox and Judge Willis and even Judge, the gentleman who had Stephen's first trial. I just can't think of his name now.
Oh, yeah, Judge Hazelwood.
Yeah, Fred Hazelwood. I can't look at those people and I listen to what they say and what they don't say. You can learn often just as much from what they don't do as what they do. I can't look at anything that they've done that gives me that real sense of, well, no, they acted independently and professionally. Nothing that they did was couched in those independence terms at all. And you've got to say, well, okay, why was that? Well, clearly there's a culture of, covering everyone's back in the law enforcement circle, and it goes right up to the Attorney General's area and the sorts of people who are in there. And that has to change, and the only way that changes is that there be a thorough investigation and reforms brought in. That's what needs to happen. But first things first, we need to get Stephen and Brendan out. So, and hopefully, although I feel unlikely, some true justice for Teresa and her family. But the longer this goes on, the less likely that appears to be the case, as it seems to me.
And unfortunately for me, certainly part of the Holbach family is not the solution; it's the problem.
Yes. Yep.
They, particularly Mike Holbach, some of the comments that he's made. Some Ricky Rear has put: if Steve is retried and found guilty, would his appeal start over, just like it was his first time round?
Yes, it would. It would. Yes, would be the case.
It would certainly raise a lot of questions if he was found guilty again, based on the evidence that Kathleen Zellner has developed.
Yes.
Is there a possibility that you get a completely rigged jury and they decide to find him guilty? Then she would just start all over again. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but I certainly can't see that happening. What I can see happening is, and you touched on this, the cost to Wisconsin of all of this. I've often said, that to Herman, as far as you're concerned, the end justified the means, because you saved yourself a whole load of money, you've saved yourself a load of embarrassment. And if there was one thing that guilters were going to say to me, as if that I would find, I would have to dig deep to give an answer to, is, to use a Polish expression, it's not your circus, it's not your monkeys.
Yep.
So why get involved in all of this, And for me, the bottom line is a certain statement by Brendan: people of the world, or people in the world. Was it people in the world or people of the world? But
dear people in the world, I think.
In the world, please help me.
Yeah.
But yeah, the cost to Wisconsin. I mean, just the investigation alone. It's that in itself is a comedy, isn't it? That's a bizarre statement.
It's so bizarre and so embarrassing that it's just so culpable in negligence to do what they did and waste all that money.
I mean, it's well over $1 million, wasn't it? Easily.
I think I've read. I mean, I don't know how valid it is. I think I've read comments about $2 million.
Yes,
right?
I think I've seen 2.1 million. Yeah.
And then even in the current situation, forget Stephen's first incarceration.
Yep.
Brendan and Stephen have been in prison for 13 years, give or take. Mm-hmm. And that's 26 years. I believe the average cost of housing a prisoner is about $40,000 a year. Mm-hmm. So the simple maths of that will put that well over $1 million as well. So the cost of incarcerating people and so on is just phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Which begs the whole question about private prisons and all that sort of jazz. And the sheer rate of incarceration in the US, which I won't go on about again, but the sheer volume of people that get sent to prison in the US is just ridiculous.
Yes.
And would suggest that American people are 5 times more criminal than Australians or Brits. Clearly, that's not true. Mm-hmm. But they lock them up at a greater rate than any other nation in the world. Mm-hmm. So,
and for me, it touches on the subject of deterrence. Clearly, nothing is acting as a deterrent. They're locking people up. Sometimes they're getting sentences of 100 years or 150 years and so many days and stuff like this, and it's like ridiculous.
Sorry, go on. Go on, Paul.
No, I was just saying it doesn't act as a deterrent.
No, and they have. I think I've got this right. In Wisconsin, they have this ridiculous rule that says that if you don't admit your guilt, you don't get parole.
That's right.
And if you're innocent and you don't want to admit the guilt because you're innocent, then you're never going to get parole. Mm-hmm. And secondly, it's a it's a force to suggest that you'll admit guilt and take a plea on a lesser sentence, and end up with a criminal record for something you didn't do. I mean, it's counterintuitive to justice that you should have a rule that says if you don't admit your guilt, you don't get parole. That type of rule just exacerbates this issue. You get more and more people in prison on sentences, on plea bargain sentences, on the basis that they say to themselves, I'd better off taking 10 years and being in here for life. That's just ridiculous. Seriously ridiculous.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. So as I say, let's just wrap it up, because I've kept you long enough, and I realise that you are an hour ahead of me. So
2 actually.
Yeah. Oh, 2. My goodness. Right. Okay then.
Yeah.
So it's it's nearly midnight. So I know that you'll be busy.
Dracula country, right? So yeah. It's middle of the day for me.
Yeah. Are you able to tell us anything about what you're doing over there? Is it more sort of property development or?
Yeah. Property development matters, and I have some clients here as well. And I have been coming here for over 11 years now, I think. Yeah, so I'm a bit of a local, almost. I know enough of the language to get by, and so I'm here for partly pleasure, partly work. But the nature of my work is such that it's mostly internet based, and so it doesn't really matter where I am. I can still be productive, and hence why I'm lucky enough to be able to travel a lot and still be productive. So it's no different when I come to Scotland or England or Wisconsin or Crunch Rivers,
Island. Crunch Island.
Crunch Island, yes. Although I'm not quite sure whether I'm American or British in Crunch Island, but I don't know which visa to get. So, So I'm fortunate to be able to do what I do, and I've always held this view, Paul, that to me that's luck. That I'm lucky that that's the case. And I've always held this view about luck. It's a thing. It's a commodity, and one of the things that comes with luck is the obligation to share it. That's sort of a philosophy I have in life, and so my ability to travel and do things and hopefully help others, as the case allows, is what I want to do, because I've got this bag of luck and I want to share it. So that's why I do what I do.
Excellent. Yes, Fen was saying that there's a guitar behind you. Is that one of the ones from your ranch, or is that one that you've
over here? Can you see that? Can you?
Yeah, I can see it in the background. Yeah.
Oh, I can't see it on my little camera. Yeah, it is over here.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, can't reach it without. If I stand up, you'll see I'm wearing my pajamas.
Yeah. No, you're okay. You're fine. You're fine. Yeah.
Yeah, it's over there. Can I just mention one other thing in case I forget, is to talk about the rally itself.
Yes. Well, that's what I was wanting you to talk about anyway. Because in all seriousness, the rally is actually even more important than the Cricket World Cup.
Yes.
Not very much, because it is a World Cup. It's not just we are American teams and we will take part in a World Series. But anyway.
Well, this is in effect a World Rally, because we'll have people from overseas in Manitowoc, as well as rallies being held in other parts of the world at the same time for the same cause. So it's very much a world event.
Yes.
So the rally's on Saturday, the 15th of June, and I think the official times are 11 till 4 or to 3. I forget now. I think maybe to 3. Yeah. It's held on the street outside the Manitowoc Courthouse on what's called Washington Street.
Yep.
And as many people who can come along just makes it all the merrier. Yep. And later that evening, same evening, starting from around 6 o'clock, I think it will be, maybe 5, we'll know a little bit more soon. There's going to be a supporters or event held at the Baymont Inn in Manitowoc, which is just about a 10-minute walk from the courthouse. I'm sure some of the supporters will be staying there as well. But it's right on the water of Lake Michigan and the river, the Manitowoc River that runs into the town. And it's a nice venue, and it's a good chance for us all to get together and chat and socialise. And obviously Stacey will be there, of course.
Yep.
And he'll undoubtedly be playing a few songs.
Excellent.
And but there'll be more about the detail of that. But I just encourage anyone who's coming to make sure they come along to the event in the evening as well. So
I think, particularly having meeting up with obviously we meet up at the rally, but then having a chance to sort of sit down and socialise as a group together. I think that's really good. And then on the Sunday, me and Stacey will probably have to go out busking to raise money for the dude's bail, because he's going to get into some sort of altercation fight with a shopkeeper over his lack of stocking the right sort of Dr. Pepper,
yes, that's
or
right.
the wrong sort of Captain Crunch cereal, or it'd be the wrong, something daft like the wrong bloody sausage or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. Or the sausages won't be good enough, right?
He'll be mumping and moaning about something. Yeah,
we'll have to give him, at least if he does get arrested at the rally, it's not far. The jail's just behind the courthouse, so it won't be far to go and visit him, right? So he looked good in orange, actually. He and Len might have the same colours, although Len's in another county. So
Do you know the at the end of his on his last presentation of Marathon, he's wearing his black shirt and his Pink Panther tie.
Oh yes.
Eunice said, "Oh, he looks very smart," and I said, "Yes, he does. He polishes up very well when he wants to."
Yeah, he knows. He's a trooper, friend Mr. Coze.
He's come a long way. He has come a long way. I know that some people like it when he does those sort of videos where he's presenting lots of screenshots, but I think he's he's the black belt of YouTubers for a reason. We're very lucky that we've got him as as a good sparring partner, because we really do. In case some of you don't realise, we've got our own sort of, as you often find with people that on social media, they've got their own little chat groups, and the stick I give him, well, it's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yes, I don't know. He doesn't need any enemies with you as a friend, that's for sure. So.
but even he's wising up to some of the things that I sort of lead up to.
He's sort of he's trying to work you out. It might take another few years, but but one thing I wanted to say about Eric Coze and what he does, I mean, we all absorb it like it's a beer at the bar or hamburgers or something, but what he does is very, very difficult to do. To technically, and his personal time and content, the depth of research he has to do to be able to impart the knowledge that he does, and the connections he makes with other people to share in his live chats. That's a huge task, more than most of us realize, because we just sit back and enjoy it. We don't actually see what goes on behind the scenes to make that all happen. And it's in a normal professional presentation environment, there'd be a cast and crew of behind the scenes people making all that happen. Well, his cast and crew is himself, plus all his wrecking crew friends who obviously help in terms of moderating what goes on. But his commitment to the cause of Stephen and Brendan and other cases for that matter is just breathtaking. And I take my hat off to him in everything that he does.
Well, yeah, I mean, he said on Friday that he was going to take a break for the weekend.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And I was thinking, yeah, you should definitely do that, dude. Next thing I know, he's done about 4 or 5 videos. He is some machine. He is, as they say in thrift shop, he is a cold ass hunky.
Yeah.
But no, it was just that Eunice did comment on the fact that He's looking very good. He's looking very good. So, and if he was to wear his white shirt with either of those white ties, which because the Mammothon and the Wrecking Crew are predominantly white ties, that would look absolutely fine. The only thing I would say is wear a dark jacket. Wear a dark jacket with your white shirt with your nice tie, and honestly, dude, you would look nearly as good as me.
Well, not quite. No one could do that good, right? But, we don't want him to get too sophisticated. Otherwise, he mightn't deal with folk like us, right? So he'll be keeping up with the Kozays rather than, dealing with mere mortals like you and me and most of us.
Yeah. 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 No, it's it is difficult sometimes trying to keep attention focused on the case rather than sometimes on the individuals involved in doing these videos. It's one of those things where dare I say it, when I was in Melbourne, I got the sense that some of these attorneys, they're actually quite enjoying the fact that they are the stars of presenting their show.
Yep.
That was my only concern, that some are sort of enjoying their newfound their newfound stardom. And it's very important that these people don't forget that there's all of us out there, and just keep on the case. I haven't heard anything yet from. I don't know if you've heard anything yet about what Drizzen and Nyrider are planning to do about Brendan.
No, only what they said in their presentation.
Yeah,
I think they've exhausted all their legal appeals.
right.
They would be relying primarily on newly discovered evidence, which is a bit ironic in a sense because there is no evidence against Brendan other than his confession.
Exactly.
So there's nothing new to discover. So their newly discovered evidence has to arise out of Stephen's case.
Yep.
So they're highly dependent on Stephen's outcome for Brendan, short of some sort of clemency or whatever that Governor Evers might give.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, I'm confident that he'll get out, as I am with Stephen. So, but the cases are so intertwined, of course. Interestingly, the facts surrounding Stephen's, what were the case, the narrative, if you like, in Stephen's case, happened to be quite different from the narrative that in Brendan's case. It was if like they weren't together.
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, whatever happens with Stephen's case will have a direct bearing on Brendan, and that's where I think his success lies with Kathleen Zellner indirectly, notwithstanding all the fabulous efforts of Stephen Drizzen and Laura Nyrider and their teams who have been just remarkable, flying against the face of the opposition that they've had to. So, and you only have to, if you're short, if not you, but if others are short of something to occupy their time MAM wise, in the meantime, I'd suggest a few things. One would be go back and listen to some of the episodes in MAM2 that talk about where the scientific testing stuff, which are just fabulous to watch. Or go and read the dissenting judge's opinion in the Seventh Circuit on bank review to realise why we should feel confident. And so, yeah, I've watched and read these things over and over again, and I never ever get bored with them. I always learn something more that hadn't either been clear to me at the time or maybe reinforced in a different way. Just even little factual things. I think, oh, okay, that's interesting. I didn't realise that. So, yeah, just if you've got the time, watch these things multiple times and read the books and read the transcripts if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the criticisms, I suppose, of Kathleen Zellner of law was the fact that when she did do the en banc review, she wasn't able to back some of these questions. You know, when you even got the dissenting judges saying, you know, it was a horrible crime. Yes, being murdered is a horrible crime, but we have no evidence that what was supposed to have happened. You know,
No, that's right.
But to not argue that point.
Yeah, but that they wouldn't argue that point because that's not why they're there before the Seventh Circuit. They're on a habeas petition.
Yeah.
About you know, if you like, the denial of his constitutional rights for you know, in this case, special care, or at a lower level to do with ineffective assistance of counsel. So they weren't there to argue the merits of the case per se. So I suspect they, in their limited 20 minutes that they get to say anything, they wanted to stay focused on the core legal arguments that they were there for in the first place.
Yeah, it's just when you know, that one judge said about, you know, the fact, why do we need two killers, and Kathleen Zellner's answer to that was absolutely spot on.
Yeah.
But there seemed that little bit of a reluctance to acknowledge Steve's case and trying to focus purely on this wrongful conviction. But for the judge's point of view, you know, maybe it's true. Maybe Judge Hamilton is that naive that he thinks, you know, well, if there's shell casings in that garage, somebody's been shot there.
Seriously, really? You think so? In a farm environment or in a salvage yard in rural Wisconsin, you couldn't take a step without finding shell casing somewhere. You know, I don't want to be, you know, the sort of conspiracy theorist, but I can't believe a phone call hasn't been made somewhere along the line between some parties about this matter at this, you know, in terms of the judicial, the judges, I should say. So, yeah, I hope I'm wrong, and I hope it's just the incompetence, but I'm struggling to believe that to be so.
It's far too convenient to just be an accident. The way the investigation went, you know, that wasn't incompetence. That was deliberate.
No. Well, even the then Attorney General, what's his name, Brad Schimmel, when he was being interviewed, talking about the decision to appeal when they lost the 3-person panel decision, and they appealed to the en banc.
Yep.
He makes this comment to, I think, a reporter or some television interviewer saying, well, you know, it's a bit of the luck of the draw who you get in that panel, and we thought we were going to be up against it with the ones we got. I mean, seriously? What does that say about the independence of mind, you know?
Yep.
So, you know, that suddenly that they didn't get their buddies in the 3 spot, but they'll get them this time in the 7 group. So there was an ugly undertone to that comment that struck at the issue of independence of the judiciary, and I think that said a lot about what went on there. So.
Yeah, I think Kathleen summed it up beautifully when she said this case is very political.
Oh God, it's all political, and you know, Stephen and Brendan and Teresa and as well are all victims of the politics of all of this. So
you've just reminded me, Brad Schimmel. I looked up Brad Schimmel. In fact, I looked up Attorney General. Yeah. To read about a little bit about them. 2 interesting facts. Second on their list of obligations is to defend funds.
Funds
to defend.
Really?
Funds, yeah, to protect funds.
Really?
Yeah,
that surprises me.
I know, and also the other thing that struck me that was a bit odd. It was the terminology was, instead of referring to the wages, you know, what the salary was, they don't refer to the salary. They refer to the compensation.
Yeah, I know.
Why do they call it a compensation?
I think that's just semantics to make it sound like they're beholden. They've been compensated for their time. Like it changes the emotional connection that rather than them earning their money, they've been compensated for giving their time.
Right.
Interestingly, in Sean Atwood's book, he has a section there where he talks about how poorly paid public defenders are in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
I guess probably across the US for that matter, and that for his let me see, for Len Kaczynski's, let me see, about 5 months I think of time that he had on Brendan's case, he got the princely compensation of about $13,000, and Michael O'Kelly got about $4,000 or $5,000.
Yep.
And we're all familiar with the Michael O'Kelly abuse of Brendan in that interview and sort of confession thing, but which is just infuriates me just thinking about it now. But in Sean Atwood's book, he actually pretty much outlines everything in that interview. Excuse me, not just the bit that was in Making a Murderer. And O'Kelly's approach was just seriously, just really abusive. And the fact that they can walk away scot-free after behaving that way is just another indictable aspect of why the system needs to be grossly reformed. So,
yep. And I was just trying to look up and see what does the. I think this was it. And I was trying to look at exactly what his sort of obligations are. Duties. Give opinion to officers. Give his or her opinion in writing when required, without fee, upon all questions of law submitted to him or her by the legislature, either House thereof, or the Senate or Assembly Committee on Organization, or by the head of any department of state government. Next duty, protect trust funds. Examine all applications for loans from any of the trust funds and furnish to the commissioners of public lands his or her opinion in writing as to the regularity of each such application, and also of the validity of any bonds or other securities purchased for the benefit of such funds. Well, protecting funds.
Well, in that generic sense, yes, that makes sense.
Okay.
Although I would have thought it'd be more, I'm not sure what the equivalent to, the treasurer or whoever the financial head is in a state. Yeah. We call it a treasurer here in Australia. I would have thought that was more their role than the Attorney General.
Well, it's just when I read that, it just reminded me of what I'd heard about the fact that Peg was determined not to cost the state a load of money, and yet in actual fact, it seems like it's going to completely backfire when the compensation that they're going to have to pay out. It's going to be astronomical.
Yes, it is, and it will be. But it's the cost and pain that the state's going to have to bear for the system that they've allowed to perpetuate seemingly over half a century, it would seem. And so there's no avoiding it.
Mm-hmm. But you see, basically, it's we say it's the state has got to take that pain. It's the taxpayers.
Yes, that's right. They will, of course. I don't actually. They'll bear it over, perhaps amortise over time, but there's a cost, and.
I can't help looking at whatever figure they come up with. That money could have gone on another school, another hospital, more doctors, more nurses, more teachers, more amenities, more stuff for the community.
Yep.
You don't need to be paying out that huge. If a guilder said to me, do you not think it would be better for the people in Wisconsin if Steve stayed put? Yeah, I can see that. I can see that side of the argument. Morally, that's completely wrong. That's about the only argument I can see a guilty come to me and say, Paul, could you please shut up about this, because we really need him to stay there because it's going to cost us X amount,
But Paul, if you actually did the math, even though when we look at it as a lump sum, it sounds like a lot of money. If you actually did the math and you amortized it over, I don't know, let's just pick a figure and have a go at it. Hopefully I won't labour on too much about this, but let's just say each of Brendan and Stephen were in prison for 15 years. Mm-hmm. And if they each got compensation of 15 million apiece, so there's 30 million or $2 million effectively over the years. If you spread that 30 million over 15 years of incarceration, and you said, okay, that's the equivalent of $2 million cost a year, and then you divided that into the number of taxpayers. Seriously, it's a blip. It's a drop in the ocean to a state budget. They'll spend or waste that money on crazy projects. I mean, it sounds a lot when you bring it together as one lump, $30 million, using an example. Whether that's the right figure or not, who knows? But when you actually spread it in the budget and it's paid over time, paid off over time, if I could put it that way.
Yeah.
It won't cause the radar to move at all.
Right.
It will emotionally, because it's a big amount. And it will be spread across the cost of the state, not just Manitowoc County, because this is a state government issue just as much as it is a local law enforcement issue. So. Yeah,
the one thing that the rally is going to prove is that if we get the sort of numbers there that I'm hoping that we are going to get, then Steve's compensation could be covered by tourism in the not too distant future.
Yeah.
But at some point, people are going to say, "Oh, yeah, I quite like to go to Wisconsin and see this salvage yard where it was all supposed to happen."
Oh God, I know. Jeez. There's a story, but that's what I've said before on many occasions. Wisconsin's physically a beautiful place, very beautiful and very peaceful, generally place. So, certainly the northern part, which I've been in, the top half. But there's an ugly part, the underbelly, if you like, and that's the bit we've got to address. So.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to say cheerio, because, as I say, I've kept you now beyond midnight, and I've just noticed we've had a few people join the chat. Chad, nice to see you. Spence and Crockett Thompson, and we've got a few other names that I didn't recognise earlier. So thank you all for joining us for this wee chat with the Hod.
Thank you, everyone. Always lovely to speak with you, Paul, and I appreciate everyone coming on board to listen. I'm sorry I can't see what they're writing, but it's nice to have these collective minds thinking about the same important issue of justice.
Well, yeah, as I said earlier, it's like things have come such a long way since the dude was wearing his kilt and he was presenting a video on how to do a video. And explaining all about it, and let's just keep this going, keep this attention up. Looking forward to the rally. Looking forward to eventually hearing something from Judge Sukovich, and I feel a bit of a plonker for believing that there really was going to be a guiltathon.
Don't worry, you'll be paid. I'm sure you'll get paid out on that by quite a few people for a while.
I am sure that the dude is going to take great pleasure in ridiculing me for taking it so seriously. I have no doubt about that whatsoever. Well, on that happy note, we're going to say cheerio. Thanks to everybody who joined us, and catch us again. Another time. It's been really great speaking to you, Mark. Always a pleasure.
Thank you very much, and good night, everyone from Eastern Europe. And I look forward to seeing a lot of you, hopefully, in Manitowoc at the rally.
Lovely.
Okay, all the best.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now.